We can't hear. We can't hear.
You need to unmute.
How? How's that? If you can hear me, someone please show a thumbs up. Or an Angeli or something. Okay, great. So good evening to everyone from our Aranyu Bodhi Awakening Forest Hermitage on the Sonoma Coast. Happy Lunar New Year to you. And happy New Moon Uposatha. This is the third of 6 of our Uposatha programs during our 3-month winter retreat. So we are now halfway through the retreat. For all of you who have been joining us during this time and who have taken a practice commitment during the winter retreat together with us from near and far, I hope this time has been beneficial for you, that you're delving into the Dhamma and really making progress in the great work with sila, with our moral virtue, ethics, and moral integrity, with your meditation, with our meditation together, with wisdom and insight, deepening knowledge and contemplation of the Dhamma. I'm coming to you this evening now. I know for some of you it might not be evening, but here it's nighttime in the Awakening Forest. Our Bhikkhunis Forest Hermitage is a part of a larger private forest preserve, more than 300 acres of rescued regrowing redwood forest on the Sonoma Coast. The last 2 of our Uposatha gatherings, I joined you from our Bhikkhuni Sangha's Dhammadharini monastery in Pengrove in the Sonoma Mountain area. And finally, after 2 months away, I've been able to return to Aranibodhi, the awakening forest. And it's wonderful to see all of you here this evening and to be together. You know, all things being impermanent, you never know what's going to happen on any given day, really. We imagine, we think we know, and then, you step out your front door, your kuti in the forest, and then something happens that you absolutely didn't imagine. And then you see how things go. So, how much our lives are like that. The great anicca sanya, awareness and contemplation of impermanence. And, sometimes that can seem like an enemy, or in the Buddha's way, that can start to seem really like our best friend and constant companion, and even our great helper in awakening. So many of those who have awakened in this path, it's been through real deep realization of impermanence, and that whatever arises also comes to cease. As the things are ceasing in one way, they're also being born in another way. As they're being born in one way, they're ceasing in another way. This is the great flow of anicca. And with it, then also uncertainty, in a way, unpredictability. Sometimes we think we know what's going to happen, and that's funny. And then reality just goes ahead anyway, right? And sometimes we have the level of wisdom where we really know that we don't know. And so we have openness in our hearts with interest to see and know things projecting a kind of like a matrix of our ideas upon the actuality, and then that matrix of our ideas maybe it just blinds us to what's really going on, or maybe we catch glimpses of what's actually going on, and then we what is it it's in conflict with that projection of our ideas, and then there's so much stress and friction and suffering. So how to see and know and flow with the great unfolding of the things as they are. So having said that, with warm heart of welcome to everyone on this new moon night on the Lunar New Year. We're going to begin with a few minutes of meditation time together, about 15 or 20 minutes to meditate together. Then about 25 or 30 minutes for a Dhamma reflection, which according to my bent, I've just like jumped into Dhamma reflection because that's my life. Any circumstance arises and it's like Dhamma reflection arises, the Dhamma meeting the Dhamma. So then after Dhamma reflection, then we'll have a few minutes of Q&A time for discussion. So you're welcome to put your questions into the chat if you have any during this time. And if you would like to be anonymous, then you're welcome to send your question to tech support and just ask for anonymous, or you don't have to be anonymous. I see that I know so many of you who are here, and there are a few of you who I don't know. So warm greetings to those who I don't know and those who I do among all of you. And let's have some meditation time now together. Bring our practice as we've been developing it during this time live together with all of us through this miracle of Zoom or YouTube live stream. It's really amazing how you can still feel the meditation ambiance generate and start to almost like gel or crystallize in a way, even together like this, electronically live. And I can feel here in the forest all of those who are on retreat, who are meditating here around us now at this time. So sometimes that can be a great boon. We can just like sense the samadhi nimitta, the sign, or there's some way we can perceive the meditation beginning to come on live and established, and tuning into that as we would in a meditation retreat hall or in the physical presence together with a teacher. We can do that together now. Setting everything else aside. We now have the invitation, the opportunity for a few minutes to put everything down and come to be fully present together, aware of our bodies, feeling of sitting, our surroundings, here the energy of the forest, all of the retreatants and meditators, with the flow of Dhamma Creek, the roar of the ocean in the background, tall standing redwoods surrounding us, this little hut in the forest. With Dhamma friends. How good it is to be able to be present like this, even for a few moments in this life, to have the gift of these minutes for our hearts, our bodies and minds. Our mindfulness of the body pervaded with gladness. Or aware of whatever it is we are experiencing, feeling, sensing, thinking. Offering the open space to be able to see and know, able to hold all of that. Everything that is. allowing our hearts to be large enough, big enough, expansive. The whole world in our bodies and minds. All that we know, hold dear, all experiences. In this open, calm space of mindfulness, of the good and beautiful heart. Calm presence, awareness, sensing the awareness. Awareness in the sense of touch, our hands, fingers, our hips, back, and our whole body from head to foot. Sense of touch, wherever we feel it. Sensing the quality of our heart. Not demanding, but gently becoming aware. Just checking in. Dear heart, how are you? Warm or cool, soft or hard, feeling expansive or contracted. Coming to the breath, noticing its natural rise and fall. Letting the breath calm the body and heart. bringing calm and awareness together. As calm deepens and strengthens, awareness does likewise. Working with the two of them together. Letting go with that releasing, deepening, clearing. No requirement that anything has to be any particular way. Just with whatever the experience is. If things aren't perfect, a heart of compassion. Opening up a heart of compassion for how they actually are. For ourselves and for all of us. What is perfect anyway? For one who wishes to practice, to explore this path, to work with it, just to be alive is perfect. With awareness, with body, feelings, mind, just as they actually really are. Body, feelings, mind, heart, and Dhamma, with Dhamma. These are the ingredients we need. Just this. Not some other body. This body. Not some other heart and mind. This heart and mind. Not some other feelings. These feelings. Not some other time and place. This is the time and place.
Dhammadharini Dipati Sahampati Patanjali Adivaran Ayya Santita Sata Parajaka Jatika Dese tu Dhammam Anukampimam Bhajan.
This is the invitation to speak on Dhamma. Thanks so much to our tech support for everything. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sangham namasami. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Aratanataya. So again, warm greetings to everyone on this Lunar New Year, New Moon Uposatha, the third of our 6 Uposatha gatherings together during the 3 months of our winter retreat. So during this last fortnight, we've continued to follow Ayya Khema's retreat teachings, recorded. Actually, we had a period of personal practice, and then we picked up with Ayya Khema's retreat taught on the Uposatha Sutta. And the Uposatha Sutta is quite an incredible one. It's from the Teganika, Long Discourses of the Buddha. So for all of you who have registered for this program, I think many of you know, but some might not know. There's a link to the recordings of all of these teachings of Ayya Khema's that we're following. And we began during this fortnight with Ayya Khema teaching on from the Uposatha Sutta, which is a graduated discourse, which means it lays out the step-by-step progression of training and practice in Sila, Samadhi, and Panya, and beginning with the Sila Kanda on ethics and morality. There was a particular part of this teaching that really touched my heart as we were listening. And I have a kind of an amalgam of various translations, having consulted the Pali text. I haven't made up a new translation or interpretation, but this is it. And you might sense as I read this in our contemporary context why this seems so important. So this is an excerpt from the Uposatha Sutta, part of what Ayya Khema was reading for us and then speaking about, and we were contemplating and working with. So speaking the truth living devoted to the truth. Even just these words were just, I don't know, like kind of profound bliss and healing nectar, healing ambrosia to my heart these past few years. It seems like in our local culture, for so many people, there's been such a crisis of truth in a way, and of trust. And I've even heard from people like, wondering whether anything at all can be believed from anyone, and like even their own minds. And it is good to question actually what is trustworthy, and not necessarily to 100% believe everything that our own minds are saying. And yet there is truth. There is the intention for truth, and there is the work of the path work of clarifying what is true. There's the aim and intention to speak, to articulate as best we can what is true. And this is different than intentions to the contrary and actions that are based on other kinds of intentions. And for our human beings, I just realize, even with mindfulness of the body at the bodily level, and for the feelings and the heart, as human beings, how that can be poison for us, or how it can be really like sweet, clear, beautiful, fresh, cleansing, purifying medicine. At the felt level, it's just very, very different. Different causes and different effects, different conditions leading to different conditions, as the Buddha said, as a kind of core element of his awakening, of which conditional causation, insight into conditional causation, was such a key, the key aspect. So back to quoting from the Pottapada Sutta, speaking the truth, living devoted to the truth. They are trustworthy and reliable, no deceivers of the world. Reconciling those who are divided, supporting unity. These words also form my heart with my experience of the last few years, and even the last few months leading up into this retreat time, just truly contemplating this. I also felt likewise how this is just such a medicine, something that's just so healthy, around my navel at the gut level, and the whole complex of our gut brain, then spread out through the body. Everything, even just with these words, and really like attuning oneself to these words with mindfulness of the body, you can see how, everything turns around. The ideas that we have in mind, there's a cascade of effects. So when we talk about people being divided, not reconciled, not in harmony, not in unity, as I think many of us have seen so many images, so many words, in person, up close, or on social media or the news, whatever way we receive it, or in conversations with people. There's just been so much about this. Reconciling those who are divided, this heart intention, supporting unity. They rejoice in concord, delight in concord, love concord, speaking words conducive to concord. For our healing, if we have felt injured by our experiences in the last several years, in the last several months, or in our relationships with various people, or the way that we're relating to ourselves and our own bodies, feelings, and minds, even sometimes, it's like one group of our thoughts then goes to fight with another group of our thoughts and then beats them up, or argues with them, judges them, this kind of thing. Even inside ourselves, reconciling those who are divided. It's such an important part in the second fold of the Noble Eightfold Path, for sankappa, for our intentions or our motivations. Avyapada, sankappa. Really, vyapada is divided, yeah, whether internally divided or internally and externally divided. So reconciling those who are divided, supporting unity. They rejoice in concord and delight in concord, love concord, speaking words conducive to concord. I've been meditating with these words. It's not that I'm really good with this. I really, really recognize this is just such excellent Dhamma that is so much needed internally. And I feel like wherever I do see this in the world, wherever this is present with whatever people, it is just such important medicine. I feel bliss, a kind of bliss, sense of, I don't know, like purity and cleansing and healing and bliss as a characteristic of this medicine, to really deeply contemplate these words. And in doing so, then some of the things that can't come up that say, but, no, actually not like that, no, not this, not that, not the other thing, what about this? And really, if possible, then to hear those voices and to feel those feelings and to persist with this intention and motivation and dedication, and allow that space of reconciliation and non-division to hear, to see, to feel, to know, to receive, all of that supporting unity in the heart of concord, loving concord, speaking internally and externally in ways conducive to concord. It is such a path of practice. It is really such an amazing training. They speak words that are gentle, pleasing to the ear, endearing, going to the heart, words that are polite or respectful, amiable, means kind, from a heart of friendship, friendliness, and agreeable to the many. Bahujana hitaya, bahujana sukhaya. Bahu means many, jana is the people, for the welfare and happiness of the many. Speaking at the right time, then this brings in a whole other level of wisdom. What is the right time, the right place, the right person? Yeah, not just to speak our truth, but to speak our truth wisely. What is the right time, the right place, the right person? But remembering it's a path of practice, it's a training. It's not like you have that intention that you have just one chance to get it right. And if you don't get it right, then you give up because you can't do it, right? No, practice is not like that. Training is not like that. Yeah, if you had just one chance when you were a kid to like walk or not, if you fell down, then you're never going to walk, right? Wouldn't it be evil if somebody told you that? It would be so cruel and heartless. And yet sometimes if we don't look carefully, if we don't examine for ourselves, we can be like that with ourselves. about things and then, accidentally, inadvertently close off our opportunities for what is really so excellent, where we really have opportunities to practice and to grow and to gain from that practice and that growth. But it doesn't mean that it will always be easy or that we always get it right. Practice is almost never like that. Training is not like that. It's training. So then, speaking what is true and meaningful with artha, meaningful, connected to the goal, beneficial, speaking in line with the Dhamma, speaking in line with the Vinaya. They speak words worth treasuring. Oh, reasonable, measured, and beneficial. So, hearing Ayya Khema voice this, I went to the sutta and have been spending time meditating on this. Even one of my companions here in the forest, who I heard knows calligraphy, has prepared a rendition of this that I want to hang up here in this little cave-like kuti in the forest to contemplate again and again, because I feel like this is so much needed in our world. We really need this. And at least if I'm feeling that, then at least the world of this body, these feelings, this mind, I have the opportunity to, speak to that need, to work with that need, and to make offerings to that need. I can do that here. And even being in retreat, even with my fellow forest beings, human and other forms of beings here, there can be benefit from every bit of working with that. Not to mention the accumulation of benefit, the expansiveness of benefit for every bit more and further working with that. And then the momentum that comes from intentions being applied again and again and getting stronger, and like the growth and the development that comes from that. So then another teaching of Ayya Khema's was on guarding the senses, mindfulness, and clear comprehension, and contentment. Then another teaching on the hindrances and their similes. I would highly recommend that talk. That was really quite a talk. I was just, I don't want to say blown away, but so impressed by that excellent Dhamma talk. And Ayya Khema gives great examples of how to give oneself a pep talk within that Dhamma talk, and how not to waste one's time. And I feel like that part is just, it's a part of awakening, actually, to like somehow be able to grab and bring in our mind enough that we are not wasting our time for countless excuses about why we should be thinking something else and doing something else in ways that are not meaningful and valuable to us, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. So many minutes and hours, and we think, I need to do this and I need to do that. And and then where is the meaning? Where is the value within that? And like that, we rob ourselves, and we deceive ourselves, really, because it's the content. It's the content that's most important. What kind of heart quality is there? Are we engaging our meaning or not? Even if we're doing something like super mundane, like we're washing the poop out of the diapers, or out of whether the younger or middle age or older the people, whatever it may be, really, a little bit of sweeping or hanging something up or washing something or walking here and there or just sitting and breathing or listening or speaking or chop, chop, chop on the chopping block. You know, I mention this. I don't cook myself anymore, and I haven't chopped anything in a long time, but I have such a poignant memory of the retreat time in a retreat center a few years ago and sitting down with my alms bowl in this area outside as the day was nice, and then sitting there with my alms bowl in the sun. And the alms bowl is, my alms bowl is made of metal, and it's a circle, and somehow that can become a kind of object of meditation in a way, almost like these meditation discs called kasinas that people use for concentration. And so I was sitting there and I was just looking into the bowl, and there's the sunshine and the circle of the light reflecting on the metal in the bowl, and sitting there quietly. And then there was a grate in the cement of this outdoor sitting area, and then I could actually hear the noises coming from the kitchen, like a couple of floors down in this building, and I could just very clearly hear that, like, it sounded like a wooden chopping block, and then the knife on vegetables just going like chop, 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 like this, and just somehow so clearly. And then this teaching of the Buddhas, what is it, like the aggregates, mind and body on the chopping block. I think it's from the Therigatha, the verses of the women elders. And then that Dhamma teaching just suddenly then just came to mind, and in such a compelling way, right? And it wasn't even me chopping. I was just listening to someone else chop. And how many times do we do these things? Yes. And then is it meaningful? Is it something that, like, would be worth remembering years later because of how present you are with it and how much you're engaged with your practice and the meaning? So it's like completely then connected with the Dhamma. The Dhamma is there in your body and mind, with that action, whatever it is. Or is it like, I'm just trying to get through chopping this one more darn vegetable, and then to get the food on the table, and to get them done eating, and then to get them out of here, and then to get on to the next thing, and then I'm going to go clean the restroom and brush my teeth and take a shower, and then it's time to start preparing the next meal. And then, you know how many days, how many lifetimes? I mean, I don't know, maybe you don't believe in multiple lifetimes, but it's like, almost like each time we wake up is like another life and opportunity somehow. And then there are the sections within a day where there are the transitions, and you're beginning one thing and ending another, and it's almost like a world or a life. And how are you going to step into the world of those 5 minutes, or those 30 seconds, or that 1 hour, or whatever it may be? Are you going to, people talk about occupy, are you going to occupy your life? Or are you going to let it run away with you until then you're like looking from above, and is that my coffin? What's going on? All the people are around, and am I wait, what happened? Oh, and it happens like that. It really happens like that. It does. I hear these stories from people. I've had a near-death experience, so I'm actually, I've had that experience of like being, looking down at the body and, whoa, wait, what's that? This is a different perspective. What's going on here? And others too. People really have these experiences. A lot of them do. And in fact, if we're talking about, near-death experience, all of us are really going to have it, aren't we? Except for the word near might not seem like it. Might be like, is this a near-death experience, or is this a real death experience? This is it. We're all going to come to that. It's one guarantee, having been born. And then for many of the people then it's like also then you look back and you review all the things that you've done. I had it happen on the freeway before entering monastic life, and driving in the Capitol Beltway outside of Washington, D.C., and, rainy afternoon. There was a traffic jam, and, so I slowed down quickly to like stop for the traffic jam, and then I'm looking in my rearview mirror, and then I see the car coming up fast, and it's like wet and rainy and nowhere to go, and they are not slowing down in time, and then crash, right? And like the deck of cards going like this. You see all the things that you've done, and then you have, within a matter of a second or two, and then you analyze all of these things because the time slows down and opens up, and it's like each thing of meaning, and then like just so many cards, so many days, hours, weeks, months, years, and what was that? It's like so many lives in a way. Yeah. But then what was the meaning? What was the meaning and value within that? When were you really present? When did you really act truly? When did you speak the truth really, truly, and purely and clearly from your heart? When did you realize something yourself? When did you show up in the way that you really felt like you needed to show up? It doesn't matter what the rest of the story is around that, really, not so much. It's those things that matter. So then, yes, back to the hindrances and their similes. I came as talk, how to give oneself a pep talk and not waste one's time. And then compassion for dukkha was the last meditation, guided meditation that we had. And these are all accessible and available to all of you freely. By the way, I found that one so useful, so valuable. Really, it's the same old story in a way, isn't it? Compassion for dukkha. And yet somehow the way that Ayya was teaching about this, I found it really useful. And all of this is coming up to, in these particular retreat teachings, coming up to the first jhana. So I'd like to share with you then, as I have been, a couple of the interesting and important things that have been gleaned from these teachings during this time. I'm interested for you too, not necessarily only questions, but if you're working with these teachings, or even now, what you're hearing and working with, I'm interested in your experience and what you're realizing as well, what you're finding useful. Something that I found particularly useful in the talk on the hindrances and their similes was also really recognizing, as Ayya stated explicitly, how work with the Brahmaviharas, metta, loving kindness, karuna, compassion, and then that meditation on compassion for dukkha particularly is where this point was made. Appreciation, appreciative joy, and upekkha, how these qualities actually work as antidotes to the 5 hindrances, how they engage with the hindrances and are impactful on the hindrances in a way that those hindrances stop hindering and stop afflicting in the same kind of way, the way that is obstructive to being able to really absorb deeply into the sublime stillness, unification of mind, absorption into the jhanas, and to become like completely wholehearted, whole-minded, really unification of mind. That is often called concentration as a translation for samadhi, and the jhanas. So we know these things, we work with these things, we hear about them, and yet sometimes when something is taught in a particular way, it's like we cognize it, we recognize it in a whole new way. That's how that works. This is why this is important in this way. This is how it connects. This is how the path works in this way. So important. So that karuna bhavana, this compassion aspect of metta, of loving kindness, a compassion for dukkha, particularly for oneself and also for others, how this works for our unification of mind and our ability to be able to enter into these sublime, excellent states, which are beautiful and excellent unto themselves, but also really manifest the qualities of mind that are ideal for insight, realizations, to be able to see and know things clearly, truly for ourselves, and then the wisdom that is able to grow and develop out of such insights. This is how these things connect. This is how these things work together. Another thing that I've been particularly appreciative of and noticing in Ayya Khema's teaching, and that she comes back to again and again, is really, I'm also finding so poignant in this time, is the theme of our common humanity and our common human condition, the universality of our condition of dukkha. So useful, so valuable. It's also just like a balm and a medicine for this time that we're in as humanity together. And here in the United States, let's say, with all that we've been experiencing in these past months and years, might not be so for you, but I know it has been for me, and I know it has been for many other people. So I'd like to take a pause here now and to give time for questions or for your sharing. I'm looking at the chat now. Oh my goodness. I'm so glad to see that we do not have a lack of questions this time. Questions are things to share. And I'd like to say, due to the sound and various technical aspects, we started a little bit late. And I know you might have something else that you need to do 15 minutes from now. And if so, that's completely fine. Welcome to do that. And also, I would like to offer an additional 15 minutes time for this important time of Q&A and sharing and Dhamma discussion. So if you need to leave at the time we had appointed to end 15 minutes from now, then you're welcome to. And if you'd like to stay for the additional 15 minutes, you're welcome to. So I'm going to take a look at questions here now. So there are questions from last time that have been shared by tech support. Thank you. And also, I'm going to skip over that, and if we have time to come back to them, then we'll do so. I'm going to go to what's live for you now here. So would you please explain the difference between loving kindness and compassion? So I'm going to share with you my own thoughts and understanding about this, together with what I've learned in the Buddhist teaching. So my own understanding is that for metta, for loving kindness, and the type of qualities of metta that the Buddha is speaking about, like, for example, we find in the sutta, the kind of quality of love that a mother has for her only child, to be then extending that out to all as to oneself, abundant, exalted, immeasurable in the immeasurables, Appamana meditations. So this kind of quality, if we look at that quality and we think about how we experience it ourselves or how we see it in others, in mothers with their children sometimes, or with others, how we feel towards ourselves or others, or even other small, delicate living beings. I know sometimes people are only really able to experience metta with, not even with a baby human, but maybe with a little baby puppy or kitten or chick or something like this. Is like just so tender and delicate and so dear, and it's like your heart just goes out to love them so much. And like for the baby humans, then there's that love. And then also when that's there, then if the child cries, then there's, within that same quality, there's something else that comes up that's like, oh. And the natural response is to like find out, is there something wrong? Is there something that's causing them to cry? Like, are they hungry? Right? And then if they are hungry, then to see that they get what they need, and to see that they get the food, right? Or do they have poo-poo in their diaper? It's uncomfortable. And then like they need a diaper change, right? And so then this is, my understanding is, this is the quality of compassion. And according to the Buddha's teaching, karuna, this kind of compassion then is the wish to relieve suffering. It doesn't mean necessarily, like we often think in English with compassion, like suffering together or feeling together. It doesn't necessarily mean that one must also suffer with that one who is suffering, and that's it. According to the Buddhist teaching, that's not the end of it. It's not just they suffer and then you also suffer, and then like everyone should be suffering together in the way that one person suffers, then all should be suffering, and then that would be magnifying suffering. That would be making more and more and more suffering. So the Buddhist teaching is exactly the opposite of that. It's not to go to the opposite extreme of like turn away from it and deny it and don't be responsive and close down your heart and don't have those kind of loving responsive feelings. It's not that opposite. It's opposite in that it's not to make more suffering. The wish of karuna, the natural wish from that love, as we see, like if you have that natural, feeling of love towards them, the crying baby is like, what's wrong? Oh dear, what's wrong? And like your heart wants to help. And so whether that's even towards yourself, some place that there's pain, it's not just to like shut it down and turn it off. And it's also not to be like, make yourself second arrow and third arrow, as the Buddha said, fourth, fifth, sixth arrow, more suffering by the way that you're thinking about it and feeling about it and engaging with it, and like more and more suffering. No, not like that. But really, that heart of compassion is with the wish to end suffering, and where compassion then works together with like the knowledge of conditional causation is you want to understand, what's the cause? Why? What's going on? Are they hungry? Is it because of their diaper? Or, did something, what happened? Did they get burned with something? Or is there some medicine, food or medicine, or, cleanup, or what will be helpful? And then the wish to offer that, to do that, to engage in the way that's going to be helpful and that's going to relieve that suffering. So it's like to do what needs to be done then. So internally and externally, whatever we're able to do. And sometimes, there's not really so much that you can do in the kinds of ways that I was just mentioning. Sometimes all the mother can do is really like just bring that child to her chest and then just hold and, just love that child with compassion, because there's not anything else to do other than to just, bring that quality of love and compassion and care. And so it's like, I wish to be able to relieve your suffering, and the only thing I have to offer to that is love and compassion. And sometimes that's all the medicine that's needed, really. So it's not, that doesn't make for more suffering. Often, sometimes that it's just that that's needed, and then that's what cures and heals the suffering, is to bring that quality of love and compassion to whatever is going on. There's not something else that's needed. It's not some food. It's not some sacred bath or mundane bath, uh, or some, balm to put on the scrape or on the burn, whatever it is. It's just that heart quality. So there's compassion for you. And then the mudita, the quality of mudita is then also, you think about that child, and then at that time when the child has become quiet, it was hungry, they were hungry, and they've had their food, and now they're like, coo, coo, happy, goo, gaga, and like, so bubble, 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 and these kind of, and then you're like, oh, so cute, oh, so sweet. And, they're not screaming anymore, right? That's really nice also. It's a big relief. And so it's appreciative, you'd say appreciative joy, sometimes called sympathetic joy, mudita, but not only, again, not only externally, but also for ourselves. Yeah, so internal and external, to all as to ourselves. And then that kind of great heart quality that the mother has to balance all of this out, to stabilize all of this, to be able to hold all the joys and all the pains, and to be like, I love you through absolutely everything. This is where the depth comes in. That's the also the upekkha quality, where that, that balance, that stabilization, that ability to be through thick and thin, come hell or high water, all these expressions, right? I love you to the ends of the earth and back, through all your joys, through all of your sorrows. So this is a love also. This is metta also. This is karuna also. This is talking about mudita also, but that kind of quality, that ability to like see, know, hold, and also to be able to pass through absolutely everything. This is where we get into the upekkha quality here with the four Brahmaviharas and the four Appamana meditations. And for the jhana meditation that's coming up, then that quality of upekkha is enormously important, because that's really what allows the mind, the heart to really deepen and really clear and really stabilize in a way that the depth of insight, that depth of seeing and knowing, that kind of penetrative quality of mind with vipassana for insight to occur. The upekkha is really like the the great context that enables this. So it's there in the jhanas and then also in the awakening factors. Then the upekkha, starting with the mindfulness and looking into the Dhamma, and there's inspiration, you get really, really interested and inspired, and then joy is arising, and then you're becoming concentrated, and there's absorption, unification of mind, but it's that stabilization of mind then with the upekkha that then really enables the insight. And also just for us, when we're talking about impermanence and uncertainty and all of that before, it's like, how do you get a handle on all of that? How can you be like balanced and stable, and how can you pass through absolutely everything like this? And in the midst of all of this, then this upekkha quality and these great qualities of heart, these are natural. These are the things that we wished. Like the Buddha said, the kids look at their parents as being like their gods, their first gods. And these are called the Brahmaviharas, right? Which means like the divine abidings, the qualities of Brahma. And it's said traditionally that if we develop these meditations, then, even this is like these are the mental abidings that the great divine beings have that make them like great divine beings, right? But we expect these kinds of qualities from our parents, and then when they're not patient and when you're crying and they're like not paying attention, or they're like, oh, be quiet, what's going on, what is it this time, oh, right? And then you're like, oh gaga, this is really special, this butterfly is just so sweet, and then they're like not joyful with you. And they should be, right? To be a real parent, like a god. I mean, your real godparent, they really should be like that. And yet for the majority of our parents or brothers or sisters or spouses or partners or, friends, it's really rare that they can always 100% of the time show up for you like that every single time perfectly in the way that you really desire and wish for, right? That would be just like perfect in what you really need. And yet, in this path of practice, we do have the ability to cultivate and develop and train ourselves and then offer this to ourselves. We've talked about this before in our last two, in various ways, in our last two Uposathas, and I just come back to this again and again. So, tech support, compassion for the Dukkha of tech support. Tech support is having such a hard time this evening. I'm sorry. I wish there was something I could do to help with this, and I hope the whole thing is working for you here. Let's all have compassion together and loving kindness and appreciation, and share that upekkha with our tech support, the gift of love and compassion. Okay, so. Let me look. I hope that I answered your question about the difference between loving kindness and compassion and a little bit more. And thanks so much to tech support for sharing the links to all of Ayya Khema's audio talks. And another question. Ayya Khema asked the question, why would someone not love themselves? The answer was riveting. Thank you for sharing that. Yes, right? Yeah, it is. It is such a great question, isn't it? And has recommended again and again in these teachings that we be practicing loving kindness and also compassion and also working with joy. And she's been talking about upekkha using different words. Again and again, she's been coming back to this so many times. She's known as a tough meditation master, right? She was known as a tough meditation master, and she's been talking to us about these qualities and having these qualities for ourselves, really working with giving ourselves time with these qualities, offering these qualities to ourselves on a daily basis with our meditation. And I know also, not only her. I remember in years past going for a Vipassana retreat. And one of the main consistent elements of the Vipassana retreat, I'm thinking now with the late Venerable Sayadaw U Pandita, then the daily practice of metta bhavana was such an important part of it. I've heard for the Pa-ok Sayadaw-ji also many times asking people to, like their minds are getting too hard, they're getting too stressed, they're like, just being like thinking they need to be trying harder, like isn't right effort. Aren't you supposed to really like put your nose to the grindstone and beat yourself to make yourself get that breakthrough? And then damn yourself if you're not. Isn't that what right effort is? Sometimes when then people are getting in that kind of way, ask them, just stop, come off, take yourself off that burner for a little while and give time to cultivating the metta, karuna, mudita, upekkha, particularly the loving kindness. Especially, I don't know if that's equally prescribed to non-Westerners or non-Westernized internationals or not. I've heard a lot of this from those who are Westerners and Westernized internationals. Sometimes those who have been raised, not all, but raised in a traditional Asian Buddhist context, many times, not always, but many times, like family has just so much love, such loving family and such close-knit extended family and such close-knit extended communities of care, even they're not your blood relatives, but so many aunts, so many uncles, so many brothers, so many sisters. It's like such a strong network of love and compassion and care that it may sometimes already be there and be much more easily accessible in a way. But if we didn't grow up with such a loving, strong, extended family and community context, then it may be that work is for us to develop in ourselves. Another question: how does Buddhist teaching about attachment apply to one trying to heal from a broken heart, and how best to give loving kindness to one who has emotionally hurt us? So this is like such a good question. Yes, there are some teachers who say that you can really make progress after your heart has been broken. Only after it has been broken. Even if you don't have some kind of romance or great dream that gets shattered or that kind of thing, there's often the experience in practice of something that feels like the heart breaking open, and to not turn away, not close that down, not stuff it in the basement or in the attic or in the back room, or lock it in a trunk, that kind of thing. And also not to think that we have to do what so many people tell us that we have to do, and that is get over it, and get over it fast. Do something to distract yourself. Stop thinking about it. Just get on with your life already, right? That was yesterday. So I would not recommend to necessarily get over it fast, or to stuff it, or to lock it up, or to turn away. I found enormous value myself in really like bringing the love, the compassion, the care, and the attention to the experience of what's going on with the heart when it feels like it's breaking. And it can be a transformative experience. It can even be something that I've heard people describe as like making a person truly human somehow. It's not that if you haven't had this experience, you should like try to go out and get a romantic relationship to break your heart. You don't have to do that. If you work with this path of practice, and if it's needed for you, it will come up anyway. So you you can you don't have to go out and search for it. It will. Yeah, it's excellent. It's wonderful. And then when the hearts, I feel like hearts somehow it's like they can break if the way that we've been holding them is hard, brittle, fragile. Um, mm, uh, you know, really sensing what is the quality of our heart, what's going on with our heart, and touching in with that. Does it feel hard? Does it feel tight? And does it feel narrow? Uh, Often it's when there are these qualities, sometimes unbeknownst to us, that then something happens, and then it feels like there's that breaking or that shattering or that tearing of the heart. When the heart does become like really big and broad and boundless and flexible and like fluent and open and unlimited, all of that, it has a very different feeling. Even the feeling like in the body, in the center of the chest, is very different. Yeah. And when it's like that, it's like it can be big enough. It's whole. It can hold all the various kinds of dukkha that ever existed and more, boundless, unlimited, immeasurable. It's got space and fluency and ability, to hold and touch and care for absolutely all of it. Amazingly, our human hearts and minds, this is something between heart and mind, really, have that ability. And this is the place where it's like the working with this. Sometimes I even think about it as like making bread and like really kneading, kneading, or a kind of massage, right? Like kneading these qualities into the spaces that have become brittle or have become hard or feel like there's a vacuity of love and care and fluency, or have been shut down, closed off, turned away from. Really, like, how can we open them up and allow these qualities into that space and really to work them in? The Buddha talked about with our awareness something very similar, but using the analogy of bath powder and water. So now we have, when I was younger, we had bars of soap, and now we have liquid soap. And so it doesn't necessarily make so much sense. We don't have bath powder anymore. But if you've ever tried to make bread, and then you have flour, and then you're putting in water, and then it's like you're kneading these ingredients into one another until they're really like thoroughly worked into one another, and they all become smooth, and then it takes on a whole different texture, and it becomes warm and pliable and workable, and then it's like whatever pan you put that into, it's going to mold to that shape. And as long as it's warm and flexible like that, you can even change your mind and put it into a different pan afterwards. And you put it into a square pan. No, I want to put it into the round pan. And you just take it out while it's still warm. And if you need to warm it up a little bit more, you knead it a little bit more. And it just becomes so flexible. And you put it in the round pan, no problem. You want to put it in the star pan, it's all fine. Yes, shallow pan, deep pan, big pan, small pan, it doesn't matter. You can put it in any one, because that's its quality. So this work, yes. And as Ayya Khema will probably be saying in the teachings coming up, she is famous for it. I haven't seen it or heard in what we've been working with yet, but it's like you start to develop something. And as I was just saying about the bread, it's like if it cools down, then even you got it warm and you were able to pour it into that star pan, right? But if it cools down, then you need to warm it up again. You may need to knead it again in order to regain that flexibility. So if you notice, it's like you're really progressing with this, but then you stop doing it, or something comes up that's like really challenging, that's like really bringing up your coldness of heart for whatever reason, or those hard and brittle qualities, or whatever it is, then you work with it again. So she used to speak regularly about like how this is an ongoing work. Just because you've gained something, if you then step away from it and ignore it and don't work with it for a while, you won't necessarily be able to pick up right where you left off. Sometimes you can. Sometimes with insights, genuine insights, it's like that just stays good. It lasts. When you remember it again, it's like that's still there. It doesn't mean you can't go further with it, of course. But for many of these things, really it's like ongoing work. And if you find it was going well, and then you sense in yourself that there's now something else happening, don't feel like that's, what is it? Not that you've done something wrong, or that the work is wrong, the practice is wrong, but just pick it up and need it, bring that warmth back in there, working with it again. I'm going to look at another question, or maybe come back to this. How best to give loving kindness to one who has emotionally hurt us? Uh-huh. Mm, you know, I don't know that there's really any special method for this, although people teach special methods like don't start with that person, start with someone else, and really, develop your ability with the people who are easier first, and then the people who you really don't know and don't care about. And then work up to the people who are more difficult, the people who you have conflict with, the people who you feel hurt by, all of that, even those, there's a traditional saying, those who are our karmic debtors. Karmic debtor could mean that you feel uh, they have a debt to you, or vice versa. Right? Like you feel like you did something wrong to them, or, the way that you behaved to them wasn't good, or you feel like the way they were behaving to you wasn't good, or both. So those are the people who, if there's anything that's not reconciled in that, anything that feels like still uneasy, not settled, not healed, not healthy, not well, it's just in a holding pattern, with unhealthy, unwell qualities there in the holding pattern somehow, then, then bringing what's needed to it is what works for me. I will actually, if I notice something like this, I will ask myself, I will ask my own heart, my own mind, what is needed here? What's needed for the healing? I don't mean necessarily their healing. I mean the healing of my own heart and mind with regards to my ideas related to that person, that situation, that thing. It can even be about something that we ourselves have done that we ourselves are not settled about. We don't have reconciliation with regards to something that we ourselves did. And then we have this sense of division inside ourselves related to ourselves. We can even feel hurt ourselves by our own behaviors. So it's not necessarily someone who we think that's outside, but we are talking about what kind of patterns are we holding with regards to ideas of someone or something that feels hurtful, unhealthy, unwell, not well settled, and asking ourselves what is needed here for this to be healthy, for this to be able to heal. And there's something I said earlier about Dhamma and the Dhamma meeting the Dhamma. Yes. So it's like, what Dhamma do I know? What do I know about this Dhamma, these teachings, this path of practice that would be well matching to this situation that I'm thinking about, that I'm sensing, that I'm feeling? Which Dhamma is the matching Dhamma for its healing, for its reconciliation, for it to be able to come to peace and become healed and well and healthy and be able to be let go? I practice with this regularly. So the situation that you're imagining, that you're thinking, internal and external, is one kind of Dhamma. The Dhamma of the situation. Yeah. And then the Dhamma that is this Dhamma taught and realized by the Buddha, that's this teaching and path of practice, and to match those things up. So for clear comprehension, for sampajanya, this is something that Ayya Khema was also mentioning. Then there's a 4-stage progression of practice, developing and then experiencing fruits of the practice with clear comprehension. And this actually speaks to one of the stages in this progression with clear comprehension. So the first stage she was talking about is where you have a theoretical idea, and you might have recognized this already when you're talking about like what Dhamma would be matching. You have a theoretical idea of what is kusala and what's akusala, what is healthy, wholesome, blessed, beneficial, in this case, healing, and what is not, what is hurtful, harmful, negative, unhealthy, unhelpful, unbeneficial. So you have a theoretical idea about this. But then you have to bring it into the circumstance. And then we're talking about the Dhamma of the circumstance, which is then the next stage in this progression. So the first is clear comprehension in theory of what is the kusala and akusala, healthy, helpful, beneficial, and not so. Having an idea about that, but then coming into the circumstance, the real living field. It's called the koachara, the field of practice, or it's also called the domain. Yeah, and so then you need to bring that theory into the working domain, into the field of your practice, and then you explore, you work with it, you give it a go, and then you check as you're doing that. And then after what you've done, you look and you see, how did it work? Is this helping? Or is this method not working? Do I need to go back to the drawing board? And this is where we also come to then clear comprehension with regards to right effort, and right effort according to the way the Buddha taught it. Then to see, is there something that's good to be reducing and stopping? Or is there something that's good to be increasing and doing more of? Is there something that's needed that's not present that I can bring to presence? Uh, so these are the questions related to what is right effort, and the clear comprehension, sampajanya, then the way that we gain insight and wisdom through this work is then by really seeing and knowing for ourselves what helps, what works, what helps. And then this is the path work, isn't it? So we've now come to the end of the time that I promised. I'm having compassionate imaginations about our tech support. And I don't know how much the tech support can handle. So I'm thinking that it would be good to have time of gratitude, appreciation, and blessings. And then with the intention to continue to explore, look into, open up, and see and know for ourselves the truth of these things, not only in theory, but really in all the domains and grounds, all the fields of our life, and then to be practicing with it. And for what we find doesn't work well, that we want to reduce or stop doing, to really like practice and train ourselves in that. For what we think would be good, then to really practice bringing it up and giving it a try, training ourselves in that. For what we know is good, to really make the conscious effort to be bringing it up and to be working with it and to be applying ourselves. And we will know then that in those minutes, in those hours, in those days, in those weeks, that fortnight, from Uposatha to Uposatha, that we've really been living our life truly, doing the work of our hearts, doing what needs to be done meaningfully, wholeheartedly. The time was not wasted. Whatever we were doing, we gave the time to apply ourselves fully to this path work. And this is something that is really worth rejoicing in. So my heart of gladness for myself and all here, and all those who are joining together from near and far, for all of the good work that you have done, your excellent intentions, and all the right efforts that you've made. And even if they weren't 100% right efforts, but really applying yourself and the practice, the training, and according to cause and effect, according to conditional causation, then the effects will come. When we apply ourselves well, the way this path works, then the effects come in their right time. This is the law of nature, something that's guaranteed. So I rejoice in all the effects, all the blessings and benefits that you've already experienced and that you will be experiencing based on your effort, on your well applied effort. For me too, for all of us. And if we have a chance, all things being impermanent and uncertain, I may see you again in 2 weeks' time on the full moon that's known as Magha Puja Sangha Day, and coming up on the lunar anniversary of the Parinibbana of our founding Bhikkhuni foremothers, Mahapajapati and her great 500, 2 weeks from now. So blessings to everyone. Thank you very much for joining me and all of us. And may we apply ourselves well with this now.